In 2013, I was a freshman in college. There are always university stories with haunted dorms, rooms, or basements, so I never thought anything of it when I heard that our dorm, Rogers Hall, was very haunted. Within the first 3 weeks, 5 girls attempted to commit suicide by jumping off the building. Thankfully, they were unsuccessful, but it for sure rocked us and made us start to believe there may be an angry presence hanging around. One early morning, my roommate and I were asleep, and we always left the TV on, and we were in bunk beds. This is kind of important to the story, because normally my roommate couldn't get out of bed without waking me up. When I woke up, I didn't have my glasses on, but I could see a girl standing in front of our TV. She had medium brown hair, was wearing a gray sweatshirt and some jeans, and she looked like she was chewing on her sleeve. I immediately thought it was my roommate and rolled over to turn on my desk lamp and to grab my glasses. I asked her why she was up so early, but I flipped on the light and grabbed my glasses, and when I looked, she was gone. And I thought maybe my roommate went to the bathroom, so I got out of bed and looked up at her bed, and she was there, still sleeping. I shook her awake and asked her how she got up there so quickly, and she had no idea what I was talking about. The same day, maybe within a few hours, our friend that lived down the hall went to the communal bathroom and was washing her face. The door to the bathroom was very heavy and scraped the floor when you opened it. She said she heard someone open the bathroom door, and she saw someone walk behind her. She didn't think anything of it because it was our floor's bathroom and girls were waking up and getting ready for classes. On one side of the bathroom there were toilets, and on the other side of the bathroom there were showers. But there were sinks and mirrors in the middle for both sides. Our friend was on the side of the showers. She saw the girl walk into the shower. As she was washing her face, she never heard the shower turn on, and she called over to her asking if everything was okay. She even walked over to see if the girl needed help, but there was no one there. Nothing ever happened again to either of us that year, but it still really creeps me out. My boyfriend and I last weekend decided to take a trip to the Elms Hotel. Overall, the trip was fun. The hotel is supposed to be pretty haunted, and we got some cool things from the hotel. This is our first week back, and things have been so weird. The first weird thing was that on Tuesday there was a huge crash, so my boyfriend immediately got up thinking someone broke in. Obviously by this Reddit, that was not the case. There was no evidence that anything had even fallen. On Wednesday, my Alexa went off just whispering. I had the TV off so I could hear what she was saying, and I turned it immediately off. Now it's Thursday. This is when things started getting really weird. It was the middle of the day, and my boyfriend and I were sitting in the living room. No TV on. We weren't even talking to each other, just watching TikToks on our phones. Then the Alexa starts rapping some weird-ass Mark Twain rap, which is apparently an Easter egg, yet no one said anything to her. Which brings us to tonight. We keep hearing tapping outside. The weird. We checked and nothing was out there. After I said, "This is so annoying," the loudest bang hit our bedroom wall. The little tapping just continues. I'm hoping it will end soon. Hey guys, I was curious about some events of my life, but I've always wondered what to do with this story, so here it goes. I was raised in a pleasant house, but me and 2 other family members always felt odd about it. For some reason, all of these paranormal things only happened to my mother, brother, and me. We come from a psychic sort of bloodline, so I always figured that was why. One time my brother woke up in the middle of the night and placed a 60 to 80 pound TV on my mother's leg and watched the static, asleep and only 8 years old. Then the psychic things began to happen. My brother predicted a death, and I've also predicted and known exactly when a family member passed. My brother screamed bloody murder once, and we walked in and he said it was a boy with red eyes. He saw this boy many times, but I never did. And he doesn't remember any of it. Now that he's an adult, all of this toned down once we moved and got older. But I'm curious if anyone has any explanation. This happened a few years ago. We have had a few things happen in our house over the years, but mostly footsteps and things randomly falling off shelves. This was one of the more creepy things that happened. I work from home and my husband works second shift, so I was in my office working and he was in the bedroom sleeping. I thought I heard him in the hallway, and then he knocked on my door, which is unusual. He normally just walks in if he needs me. So I got up and opened the door, but there was no one there. I went to the bedroom to see what he wanted, and when I opened the door, he asked me why I was knocking on the door. I told him I thought it was him knocking on my office door, and I was coming to see what he wanted. And he said that someone knocked on the bedroom door, and he was upset that I woke him up. We were both a little freaked out. My friends are tired of this story, so I'm going to inflict it on you. I've house sit for hundreds of families, and only once was the place haunted. I was pet sitting in a fancy part of town. Many of the homes aren't visible for the street. The lots are set back on acres and acres. One of the houses I sat for even had a private lake. This time I was staying in a giant wooden lodge on a winding, precarious gravel road. One swerve and you fall into a river 100 feet below. It was wild. It was dark, quiet, with tons of animals. This was a few days after Halloween. I hear a racket coming from the upstairs around 11 p.m. Girls, maybe? The next night the racket is back at 11 p.m. sharp. The Rottweiler gets upset, whining and running in circles, finally pissing in the corner. She's known as the Iron Bladder, so this was unthinkable to me. We had been out only 3 hours previously. The racket is getting louder. Sounds like someone is walking around upstairs banging into things. At this point, I'm scared. I called my witchy friend, and she suggests I do a circle of protection. The racket dies down. We go out to the kitchen, and I see a thing in the rafters, only visible for a second or two. It looks like an invisible person wearing a white sheet. Briefly twirled left to right and then disappeared. Way to confirm a stereotype ghost, right? Okay, well, I do a protection circle. Dog sits a respectable distance away while I turn in circles with a knife pointing upwards. Dog runs up to me when I finish and put the knife down. She's licking me happily. I'm glad the owner doesn't have indoor cameras. I tell the owner that he has squirrels in the attic. He says he doesn't have an attic. I go upstairs and see that it's an old bedroom. My boyfriend tries to tell me that it was in my head. I try to forget this happened, but I am a jumpy mess every time I house sit. I start declining gigs. 6 months pass. It's time for our next gig in the haunted house, and I meet the owner for a walk. I'm pretty much convinced myself nothing happened, and besides, it's a really good money. He starts telling me about his young son, aged 13 to 16, judging from pictures, who died roughly a year ago on the property. He said that he believes in spirits, and he saw a buck with a big rack pause and stare at him in his driveway. I believe that was my son. I smile and nod, unwilling to tell him I'm pretty sure I saw his son too. I dog sit for him again. I go for a swim in his pool, but I feel like something is off. I put my hands down on the side of the pool to pull myself out, and there are large handprints to either sides of my handprints. I pulled myself out quickly. I tried to forget what happened, but I never sat for them again. It ended messily, and it was my fault, but that's besides the point. My boyfriend tried to convince me nothing actually happened. Squirrels or branches on the roof, or dogs can have accidents, or your headlamp created a reflection on the ceiling. You already put your hands down on the poolside. I probably hurt my credibility by calling him, crying one night, that a ghost moved my cake. Check in the fridge, he suggested. Why would it be in the fridge? Oh, I know the truth. You only believe in ghosts once you see them yourself. When my parents divorced, we moved to my grandmother's house. It was an old farmhouse, 2-story, with 4 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs in a horseshoe shape, where the stairs were on the left that leads into the kitchen. My grandmother's room was off the kitchen. Without a doubt, the landing at the top of the stairs and living and dining room had a presence. It felt mean. It felt like someone bad was watching, waiting to harm you. It was common knowledge to the family that the house was haunted. When my aunt and uncle visited, he slept with a gun under his pillow. Not that it would help, but at least he felt comfortable. My great-grandma was mean in life and apparently in death, since most people believed the spirit to be hers. My mom's brother died when he was 5, and at times you hear him playing on the stairs, bumping down like kids do. I would race downstairs through the dining room and into the safety and lightness of the kitchen. I hated to be alone upstairs and slept with all the lights on until we moved when I was 14. To begin, I must tell you about my house. It is a brick farmhouse, built in the 1860s, with a fairly decent plot of land with it. I did not move here at a young age. I lived in this house my whole life, and I have seen many things that have made me know that there are ghosts and more in this life. Behind my house used to be a cemetery, but they decided to move the bodies, and rumor has it there are still a few out there that they have not been uncovered. This is a rather short story. It is the best one to begin my little series with. And now I shall begin. It was a summer day. I just had gotten home from school, and the bus ride felt long, almost too long. I had gotten off the bus, and my dad waited after work to pick us up from the bus. My brother and sister sat up front with my dad, and with no other option, I sat in the bed of the truck. I was just off in my drowsiness as we were getting closer to the house. When we're close to the area where my parents park, I noticed what looked like to be the end of a white sheet blowing into the machine shed. Once parked, I began to walk down to the barn thinking it was a sheet that had blown off the clothesline due to the wind. So I was going to retrieve it from my mom. Now that I'm older and I think about it, there was not enough wind to pick up a sheet that high in the air. As I walked down closer, there was no white sheet. It was not in the barn. It was nowhere to be found. I don't know what it was. After that happened, I didn't say anything, for fear of my parents thinking I'm just making things up. But I know what I saw, and if anyone has any ideas of what it could be, I would love to hear it. When I was 14 to 15, it was a late night, and I can remember laying in my bed. As I was falling fast asleep, I remember hearing a sound that woke me back up. As I laid in my bed, I could hear skipping and singing from downstairs. I thought it was my sister, but the skipping and singing kept going, and I heard whatever it was stop in the kitchen doorway and say, "Hello, kitty," in a happy, childlike way. After I heard that, I got up and went downstairs to get my sister to stop, but when I got back down there, she wasn't skipping. She was just sitting on the couch eating ice cream. I asked her about it, and she said that she wasn't, but I didn't believe her. So I went to the kitchen where my parents were watching TV. So I asked them, and even they said she wasn't. I remember getting so angry because I felt like everyone was lying to me about it. Something so simple, but they weren't lying. I would know if they were. The morning after the whole situation, my mom asked me about it, so I explained. So I agreed to explain everything. Then she even told me about a lot of her experiences and why when we were done playing with toys that had batteries, we had taken the batteries out or else they would go off in random points through the day and night. She even told me about how when I was a child she would hear voices through the baby monitor. Well, that's all. I hope you all enjoy it.